I'm David Reed, and this is The Engine Room. My guest today is Karl Erik. Would you like to introduce yourself, Karl Erik?
Yeah, I am Karl Erik Thoresen. I'm working for what we call corporate R&D in NOV, and I've been there for the last 10 years, very soon. I think next year I will be there for 10 years. It's been a great time for me all these years, doing a lot of different things. Mechanical engineer from background, but I guess more and more I do cybernetics.
Cybernetics, what is cybernetics?
Yeah, so cybernetics is all about controlling things, I think, and making machines move.
You're a control freak. You have to control everything.
I like to understand and describe them, and of course make them move.
So is that what you studied? I think you're still doing some further education stuff, right?
Yeah, right. So I studied mechanical engineering, and I'm just now writing a PhD with mechanical engineering. But I guess everything I do in work and even now is more about control systems and cybernetics. So I'm kind of a cybernetic wannabe, but really my paper says I'm a mechanical engineer.
That's great. So childhood, where did you grow up, and what led you to thinking engineering?
Yeah, I grew up in the northern parts of Norway, in a city called Bodø, just north of the Arctic Circle. And my family is even further north. They come from a small Sami village in the very northern, just south of the North Cape. And that's where I spent all my summers until I was an adult. In the beginning, I was actually thinking I was supposed to be a lawyer. And I studied, and in the preschool, I always studied languages. So I had French and German and more English. But I just realized in the end that's not what I was really good at. I just had to try to see if I could do it other ways. But I realized that mathematics and physics, that is where I'm going. And it was just the obvious choice for me in the end. That's where I can really make a difference.
So you used the word, the area that you grew up in, was it Sami?
No, my mother's place is a small Sami village, a fishing Sami village. So it's not the reindeer Sami.
And so is it like what used to be called Lapland up that area?
Yes, it is exactly that. But there are many different branches of that one. And the most famous one are the inland Sami, which are the ones that are doing reindeer. And they are still fully alive. But my mother's side is what we call a sea Sami. And they're not that well known in Norway. And I think her generation, they're the last one speaking the language and living the lives that they did.
So it has its own language. What does it sound like? Is it like Norwegian, or is it separate altogether?
It's more like Finnish or Russian. So it's totally different.
Makes sense, because it's all connected up there. And you would have grown up with the Northern Lights then quite a bit.
Yeah, but I didn't discover it before I came south, and people were saying it was special. So it's...
You're like, oh, you didn't realize how big a deal it was.
Exactly. That's the way it is, yeah.
I come from a town where our hometown song involves the Northern Lights, and we never saw it because we got so big that we couldn't see them anymore. But yeah, I don't think you can barely see them in Scotland. But I know up there, I went out and waited to see them and just saw clouds. So that was very disappointing.
Yeah, but you know, it comes in all different flavors, and the Norman isn't that special, but it is, some days it just really, it blows your mind. So when we get that one, it's different.
So does everyone have to learn photography up there just because that's a whole side business?
It looks like that because the photographs always look different than the real things.
I've still not, it's on my list. I would recommend everyone to have an experience with the Northern Lights, but I think everyone up your way, are you, okay, I've been to Harstad. Are you north, south? You north of Harstad?
Yeah, so Bodø is just south of Harstad.
Ah, okay, so I know the area. that's where I was looking for the Northern Lights. But I find in another story, so when I started working with Norway a lot of Harstad people, and mainly because there's those amazing guns up there that are just fascinating mechanically, and a lot of young kids looked at that and got obsessed with automation and machine. Is that a similar story? Did you see in your childhood was there exposure to machines?
Not really. I mean, Bodø is more fishing and trade. That's what it was. So the machines would be the fishing boats. But I don't think that's what really triggered me. It was more the fascination or the realization that mathematics and physics is easy for me.
Explains your leaning into cybernetics.
Right.
You know, because I think it's the thought process, and I think that's really. You want to talk a bit about the work you've been doing over the last decade?
Yeah. So for the last few years, 5-6 years, the task at R&D has mainly been focused on an application or an environment which we call the comprehensive model. And what the comprehensive model is, it's really a digital model of all the drilling environment. And the thing is that this is like a mathematical and physical driven model. It's not based upon machine learning or AI. It's based on first principles. And I mean, in basic, it is this model, and it can be used in all many different ways. But it may be mostly known for doing straight simulations, like training simulators, which is where it is mostly used. So
when that model, is it looking at string dynamics of the drill pipe? Is it looking at fluids? Is it looking at earth models? What components are in there?
Yeah. So the thing with this model is Åge, who is kind of the father of it, he decided to call it for Åge Kyllingstad, the comprehensive model. And it's not like it wasn't made to be one model. It was made piece by piece because he wanted to solve various problems. So at one time he had an application, he needed to have a very detailed model about the string. So it's a very accurate string dynamics model with a torque and drag and friction. But you know, many companies and many people have these ones. But it's also a very detailed model of all the hydraulics, the non-Newtonian hydraulics, the compressibility, and every single bit of the hydraulics is modeled. And many companies have that one too. But in the comprehensive model, these two are combined, and we can see effects on these ones together. And then maybe what makes this even more different is that we really have highly detailed models of the drilling machines, the draw works. We have detailed models of the top drive and of the mud pumps and BOP and the MPD. So we have like the complete comprehensive system. And it's like if you in this model change the diameter of the wire in the draw work, it would have an effect on the pressure on the bit, even though it might be very small. But the thing is, everything is interconnected. So that's what we end up with calling the comprehensive model.
That's great. I mean, I know Åge, he's well known for lots of things, done a lot of papers in the industry, but particularly the compensating draw works, which in my time was, you know, something that just blew everyone's mind, that we could eliminate large cylinders and build all that into a drawworks model. So it was really one of the most impressive pieces of work that I've seen, removing machinery and just using software to run the drawworks. But that's incredible. So and your part in that, what does your day consist of? Are you solving new problems with the model, or are you developing the model?
I've been my first part was how can we make this model available to. We were targeting making it available to NOV because we saw this to begin with as a tool that can make other products within NOV better. So it was making it available so that other parts of the company can use it. But I also spent a lot of time further developing the model. One of the heavy stuff we did was to integrate a gas model so that we could do well-controlled training courses, and we can simulate how the gas is moving multi-phase with cuttings and various fluids up through the annulus. And kind of it can always be added to it, depending on what you want to do with it.
Yeah, I noticed MPD got really smart all of a sudden, and I worked out you guys were tinkering in the back.
Yeah, and that was actually a very good project, because we were involved from the very beginning, actually even driving the project to start with. And when we decided to make the MPD control system, we were so lucky because the comprehensive model was at that stage quite ready. So we just had to add a few new components, like the MPD chokes, to add how it was actually behaving in detail. And then we could give to the control system designers a complete, ready-to-use virtual model of the system, long before we had made the first choke. And they could start develop it, and they could test the control system in a digital environment. They could sit in their offices and they could change. They see, okay, how does my system work if the well is 5,000 meters compared to 2,000 meters? You can't even do that if you were sitting with a test rig. So they could develop almost the complete system, and they could have in clients to see the user interface and to see, does this work, even before we had any piece of hardware available. So I think that was really kickstarting everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Just because, I mean, I just so happened in my career, I got caught in early what was called underbalance drilling originally, and then became managed pressure drilling. And that everything historically in well control, you're using your mud to hold back pressure, and that's it. It's your primary barrier. So this idea that we're going to allow some kind of flow, and we're going to start to do this fine tuning of pressures working with and against the earth, just holding things in the well. It's very, very complex work, and so generally it was done by a human being. Who was extremely well trained, and a few of them, and so this automated system is fantastic work. Do you get have you spent much time around drilling rigs? Have you got exposure to the field?
I haven't spent much time, but I have had some time around the rigs, especially now that we had the test rigs. But in the start of when I started working here, I traveled around on various rigs to look at problems at the rig with the mud pumps, pressure pulses, doing a lot of measurements around the rig. So at that time I was in several offshore rigs, both in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Northern Sea.
Yeah, that's for a mechanical, although you are software. For me, I enjoy drilling rigs and being on them. I think it's very helpful if you're designing systems.
You will not have any good ideas in your office. That's the main thing. You need to get out. You need to get out to do it. It's just that now we have to get those ideas somewhere. So lately we've spent a lot of time in the office.
That's good. So in your personal time, what do you do other than sleep, and what do you like to do with your time? What's your interest area?
Well, for the last 10 years, I've been a football coach for girls football, it's taken a lot of time, especially when they got older and they were training 4 or 5 times a week. But of course, I also have a cabin in the mountain, and an old cabin, and I love when I want to relax. I love to do a lot of work there, carpenting and building stuff, and
so you make things. You have a lot of carpentry tools.
Yeah, exactly. Making small houses. I have a small river I need to divert, and just doing something else than sitting in front of the computer.
And is that a winter activity for you, or is that summer as well?
On the summer I make things, and on the winter I go there with my family to go skiing and enjoy the time. Yeah.
And is that so? There's are you in the mountains in that environment? You have a ski slopes nearby, or are you land skiing?
Yeah, there are ski slopes. I do both. I mean, where I'm from, we did cross country skiing, off piste. Yeah.
What kind of distances? I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but is that long distance, or how does that work?
It varies, but I mean everything from 5 kilometers to 20, 30 kilometers is typically for a skiing trip.
Oh, that's probably better exercise. I guess both are great exercise. One's more reactive, one you're having to drive more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe more for your breathing and your VO2, the skiing, I guess. Yeah.
The one thing about Norwegians is the options for you for exposure to nature and the health of just the behavior of walking in the mountains and traveling and inside of Norway. It's admirable. When you live in Houston, you imagine that would be the best opposite of Houston, is that you have such a connection to nature.
Yeah, and it's also like this in Norway. Norway, you're free to walk wherever you like, as long as you don't damage anything. So even if someone else owns the land, they can't prevent you from walking on their land. So
to understand, in Scotland it's the same. We grew up just walking wherever you want, and yeah, that is that big plus.
Yeah, I would think so.
Are you a fisher?
I wish I could do it more. So, but there are some fishing and some hunting. I always try to get at least 1 weekend out hunting every year. But I mean, I have so many other things. So maybe when the kids grow out and fly out, I will have more time doing fishing. But it's mostly been fishing in the mountain, not in the sea.
Salmon?
Salmon, but mostly trout.
Yeah.
That's the main fish that we get in the mountains.
You have good fish, and such clean water. It's such an amazing place. So if anyone was to call you, you could just say, "Hey, nobody call me." But if there's someone was to call you from the company, what kind of questions do you think are good ones to be asking you?
I think it is. If they have questions or wondering about what they are seeing, if you have I mean, we have a very good understanding of the drilling process. What happens with the pressures? What happened with the forces? Why did this break? I think we can give a very good physical understanding of various phenomena that we see. We understand the drilling process, especially with the dynamics, better than most people. Also, if you'd like to have a new algorithm that you want to test, we can create a simulator environment where you can test it for you. And I think, and this is one of the things we don't want to brag about, but I think one of the strong sides of such a simulator is the ability to kill a product early, or kill an idea, because it's because you can't brag about it later. But we've stopped several things or ideas by testing it in the simulator and saying, okay, we can't make it work in the simulator. Then you will not be able to do it in real life, that's for sure.
Yeah. Is there any area that is outside of drilling that you guys work in, or have you done much outside of there, or is that something there's more opportunity down the road?
We haven't done much lately. I mean, we're not that many people in our department as of now, so we have to focus. And I think I'm trying to explicitly say we need to focus on the things that we're doing, especially in these times. Yeah. So in NOV now, it's been related to drilling.
And then you guys, you're running the comprehensive model, or about to run it, right, on a rig? Is that true?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, parts of the comprehensive model. I mean, you hardly ever want to run everything on the rig, but we have in an MPD system. Of course, we use the comprehensive model to create the MPD system, but it's also running now alongside the control system, parts of it. And that one is running on Globetrotter in Gulf of Mexico. They're drilling just now. Had a call from them one night a few days ago. So that's operational. It's running in another product which we're calling an envelope protection in the North Sea just now, and it is we have another rig available where we have a very much experimental version where we're saying that this is more like an R&D project with the rig owner. So it's already running on the rig, but of course the way I see it, you were talking about the drawworks. It contains part of the software code that is inside of the comprehensive model. So the active heave system is running parts of it. SoftSpeed is running the same source code, even though it's just about the string part. So it's like it is all over the place.
Okay, so it's not a thing. It's just it's an application that you can use various parts of for various parts of the process depending on what the need is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and I mean, it shows itself in many different ways. One way is that the drawworks designer, they have a web interface to the model where they can do dimensioning of the lines or the brakes and different stuff, and it's been running since 2005.
Great.
So it's just not that many places that you want to have everything in place.
Okay.
I think that would be more like training and this.
Okay, and you guys do some of that as well. I know you work with the simulators.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Karl, I appreciate the time. Appreciate having you on the show, and hopefully some people will reach out and kind of jump in and work with you guys more. There's lots of things ahead of us to work on. So,
yeah.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, David.
Okay.